Hi guys! Welcome to my review of the Once Upon a Time Season 5 finale, episodes 22 and 23. Oh guys, I really enjoyed this episode and I'm so happy to be able to say, well, these two episodes, I'm so happy to be able to say that because after last week's episode, so after the penultimate episode with Robin's death, everything was so up in the air and everyone was so angry, like, I mean really online in terms of the fandom and stuff, and everything felt like it was a bit of a mess. And I just felt really kind of worried that the finale wasn't going to be what I'd hoped that it would be, and that there would be, you know, people sending loads of hateful things. But in fact, I thought it was amazing. I absolutely loved it and I cannot wait to talk about it. So I actually started off making notes on my phone, but I got through, I think maybe about 5 minutes of it before I was like, no, I don't want to do this. I can't be bothered taking notes while I'm watching it. I just want to watch it and enjoy it and be engrossed in it without turning to my phone every 2 minutes to put notes in it. So I'm just going to kind of start at the beginning with what I did actually take down. The first thing that I have written down in my notes is Kelly and David hug and then a couple of heart emojis, because the opening scene of this episode, obviously the end of the previous episode, we had seen Mr. Gold / Rumpelstiltskin reverting to his extremely evil previous ways and tethering all of Storybrooke's magic to the crystal. And then, obviously, in my moment of joy, Emma and Colin being reunited. So I liked that little scene at the start of the episode where we saw Emma and Colin walking back, presumably from the graveyard. I'm guessing they didn't go anywhere in between. I don't have any definitive proof of that though. And so I really enjoyed that little moment of them sort of approaching Granny's and having that conversation that kind of harked back to the end of season 3, beginning of season 4 situation where Emma and Hook had come back from the past, and then Robin, they brought Marion back, and so Robin and Regina broke up. And all of that tension from there, when she then felt too guilty to do anything about the relationship and it was all a mess. I really enjoyed that kind of like parallel with that, where you were thinking back to that and going, look how much has changed in their relationship over the past 2 seasons, how completely different the situation looks now to how it looked then. So I really enjoyed that. I thought that that was a nice moment and also a kind of understandable moment, because to be honest, the kind of previous, the season 4 situation with that kind of annoyed me a bit, because I know Emma was using it as an excuse because she was frightened and she didn't want to let her walls down and whatever. But that whole like, oh, I feel too guilty about Regina thing sort of irritated me then, whereas in this situation it's like, God, you really would feel awful. Even though to all the people who are on Twitter right now being like, oh, it's all Emma and Hook's fault that Robin died, it's not their fault. They all went down there willingly, and the only person responsible for this is Hades. But anyway, the situation with that was always going to be difficult, so I liked that there was that moment of going in without him to kind of try and break the news, which of course, thanks to Rumple, was completely screwed up. But yeah, the first note that I have, after I've talked for about 3 minutes already, but the first note that I have was the Kelly and David hug, because it's like such a minor thing and it was in the background of everything else, and if you weren't as much of a fan of Hook's character as I am, you probably wouldn't even notice it. But I just loved that when he came in and everyone was like, what are you doing here? Didn't we leave you in the underworld? And then David like went up and hugged him. Oh, I just loved that, because I think I kind of just kept thinking back to what things were like in Neverland and how terrible that was, and then how much things have changed from way back then to this place that we're in now. So I thought that that was lovely. Next note that I have was that it was not fair to exclude Regina from the quest, no matter how well intentioned. I completely understand why Emma would have been anxious and thought, maybe Regina's not in the best headspace for this right now, but Regina was right. When Hook went to the underworld, everyone, and Emma was first to be like, right, I'm going to go and solve this, and everyone kind of went along with her. So when Robin has now died, to turn around to Regina and be like, oh, like, we're a little bit worried you might get out of control, you sit this one out, kind of seemed really unfair. So I was pleased that Regina stood up for herself in that situation without kind of completely losing it. The next thing that I've got written down is lol at thinking Henry would go home. When Emma was like, kid, just go home, like go back to my house and just wait there. And I was like, do you not know this child by now? Don't be so ridiculous. Who honestly would think letting him walk home by himself, that he's not going to go and get involved in this at some stage? Also, he's in the midst of some pretty serious teenage angst, therefore obviously he was going to go and do something. I like that Violet was back. I'd kind of forgotten about her, to be honest, so when she reappeared I was like, oh, this is so nice. And there were elements of the episode which obviously was very Henry-centric that I wasn't quite sure about, but for the most part I enjoyed that we got another kind of Henry-focused episode. And I was laughing at Jake and Jocelyn when they were reviewing this because they were talking about the fact the first huge chunk of this episode was pretty much just Henry on a date, which it was. What was my next note? Oh, my next note was Roland. That was heartbreakingly sad. And I do think that it was a shame that Regina didn't get to say goodbye, because although she wasn't his mother, she was a huge part of his life, and she was going to be his stepmom. Like, she was going to be there for him throughout his whole life if she and Robin had stayed together forever. And I don't know, I kind of just, I know it seems ridiculous, but I kind of had just expected that Roland would stay with Regina. I never thought that they'd send him back, like, you know, to Sherwood Forest or whatever it's called. I never thought that he would have to leave, so that was really sad when he was given, like, the feathers, and that was heartbreaking. So I've just got Roland and a crying face at that moment. Next thing that I've got written down is Emma Regina road trip. I really enjoyed that. I think that for the Swan Queen chippers, obviously this was a great episode, but I really enjoyed the Emma and Regina scenes in this episode. I thought they were really important because I think what they did was they confirmed that what we kind of worried at the end of the last episode, or the first couple of scenes of this episode, that Hook's return and Robin's death were kind of going to tear Regina and Emma apart, actually isn't the case, and we saw a lot of really nice bonding. I felt like that scene in Neil's apartment where Regina talked to Emma and kind of told her how she feels about having the Evil Queen as a part of her, and how everything that the Evil Queen did being a part of her just makes her feel like she's never going to move on, and that she's never going to be happy and find true happiness, and that it's always going to be taken away from her as punishment because she is this part of her. I thought that that was very nicely done. I thought it was very nicely acted by Lana and Jen, who are both always incredible. But I thought in that scene it was just, there was so much sort of sadness in that scene, because Regina just, you felt like she was just sort of at the end of her tether, but rather than what used to happen where the Evil Queen would, you know, come out to play, she just seemed so kind of beaten down, and it was awful. So I thought that that was very nicely done, and I really enjoyed that scene. The next note that I have was certainly not in Storybrooke anymore. I enjoyed that line a lot when Zelina and Hook and Snow and Charming had got pulled through the portal. And Zelina said, well, we're certainly not in Storybrooke anymore, and it felt very like Oz, we're not in Kansas anymore kind of reference. So I enjoyed that. I thought that was a good line. I like these little lines that they throw in just every now and then to kind of reference the histories of these characters and stuff. So I like that. I'm now just going to talk about each, because that's me run out of notes, so I'm just going to talk about each section. So I'm going to talk about the Land of Untold Stories section and the New York section, and then wrap it all up together at the end. So introducing Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. I love this. I love it. I think it's amazing. The one thing that I will say is that, in agreement with a lot of people online that I've seen mention this, I kind of would have liked to see a longer period of time of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde still being like the same person, and so that kind of transformation. I know that obviously that's then, it's a bit of a pain because he has to drink the liquid every time he's going to transform and whatever. So that's not ideal, but I felt like there was something really, really interesting about those moments, the kind of moments in between when he was transforming and then those moments just after. Hank Harris and Sam Witwer, is that right? Yes, Witwer, played Jekyll and Hyde, and I love them. I think they're both fantastic already. I have really enjoyed the scenes so far with both of them, and I think there's probably going to be a lot of interesting stuff now that they're both in Storybrooke as separate individuals. From what I'd read, I actually thought that it was going to be, like, season 6 was going to be set in a psychiatric hospital, or like an asylum kind of thing, and that doesn't seem to be the case because obviously they've all come to Storybrooke. I like that set actually. I thought that there was something really cool about that, so I don't know, maybe they'll have to go back. I kind of hope they have to go back. I like the moments, I kind of like that group who went there. I sort of like the sort of Snow and Charming and Colin and Zelina having that sort of like time together that was kind of separate from Emma and Regina, who are sort of the people who kept those people involved. Well, Zelina was never really involved at all because no one liked her because she was awful. And Hook was, his real connection was really with Emma, and so he was always sort of tagging along with them. Whereas I just really like that sort of group of 4 of them. I thought that the scenes with them were brilliant. I thought there were some absolutely fantastic lines chucked between Colin and Zelina. I thought they were fantastic moments, so really like that. I felt that whole section worked really well. The only thing that I do question slightly is the kind of separation thing, but obviously we'll go on to talk about that later in regards to another part of the episode. So the New York stuff, the scenes with Rumple in the hotel were fantastic. They were bizarre, and Robert Carlyle, as always, was absolutely fantastic. He's just brilliant. And you do kind of wonder what that poor guy that worked in the hotel that took up his lunch must have thought of him. But yeah, I felt that they worked well. The Belle situation, very good way to keep Emilie on maternity leave for a little bit longer. So I guess the next part of what we're going into in season 6 is going to have a lot to do with waking Belle, which is going to be interesting. I feel like Belle didn't have really, well, Emilie was pregnant, but she didn't have as much to do this season, so I'll be glad to see some more of her in 6, depending on when she's coming back. The scenes with Henry and Violet in New York were good. I enjoyed them. I felt that the Henry kind of destroying magic thing was very drastic, but I think that happens. I'm really sorry about the lighting, by the way. Like, the lighting's going to pot because it's got really dark and cloudy and rainy outside. But I think it was kind of like when Emma tried to take away her magic in season 4 in that storyline that was maybe a little bit over the top. It kind of felt a little bit like that, and I totally understand why. He's just seen Emma like lose Colin like 3 times because of magic, and then thankfully getting back. Regina's lost Robin. So many horrible things have happened because of magic. You can understand why he'd kind of not want it anymore, but I don't know if that was necessarily the right way to go, and I'm glad that that all kind of got tied up fairly quickly. The scene in the park where he was standing in front of the fountain, the actual fountain idea I really liked. I liked the idea of the wishes being like something that could, like, they could garner that magic and use that to get Hook and Snow and Charming and Zelena back. I liked that. I felt that was good. I felt slightly mortified by the speech kind of thing, because I think you just try and picture yourself doing that and you're like, oh no, like standing up and kind of like saying that to everyone. I felt like with Regina and Emma it was like a mixture of like maternal pride and oh no, could be potentially awful. But I like the idea of the Perrys and the wishes and stuff, and I felt that that worked quite nicely. The actual speech itself was just a little bit cringy, but it's Once Upon a Time. There's going to be these kind of like cheesy moments that you just grin and bear, and yeah, I like, as I say, the actual magic reference I really enjoyed. And I liked how after it there was that moment where Henry got really sad because he realised that everyone thought that it was like a trick, so it was a kind of like magic trick, magic show, magician type thing. And Henry was so gutted because he was like, oh, they all think that this was just a show. And Emma saying, well, no, because for a minute you had them all hooked, you know, you had them all in the palm of your hand and they all did what you asked them to do and you got them to believe, even if it was just for a minute. So I'm going to blast through the last section of this because it's got so dark that it's a bit of a nightmare. But anyway, so they used the magic to get Hook and Snow and Charming and all that out of the portal. So that was great. I like that once again we kind of all ended up in Storybrooke again towards the end of the episode. Everything feels like it's settling down. And this is the thing, as we all know, I tend to get carried away, and I may or may not, obviously, have seen all the behind the scenes like shots of the like Colin and Emma kiss at the end of the episode, and everyone, so many people said that there was going to be a proposal, and so I won't lie, I kind of had my heart set on a proposal in this episode, and that's what I had myself all geared up for. And then we didn't, and so like there was the tiniest part of me that was like just a teensy bit gutted that we didn't actually get a proposal. But what we got was like massive wedding foreshadowing. If you noticed, I'm sure you did, in that moment where she was telling him she loved him, they were standing outside Granny's. There was a wedding dress just like in the window of the shop across the road, blatantly positioned between them. Again, like there's been these shots outside Granny's with them in the past, like when she told him that she couldn't lose him and he said that he was a survivor, like the wedding dress is in the background of that scene. So this kind of foreshadowing's been happening on and off for a while. But it was just like so blatant in this episode that I loved it. So that was great. I loved that scene. I thought that it was... Do you know what I loved? Do you know when I loved it even more? I'd watched it like 20 times, I won't lie. But I loved it even more when Adam put the screenshot of the script. Like someone had asked on Twitter, can you put like the script, like that part of the script on Twitter as like a sort of like, not script tease because obviously it's after the episode, but can you show us that bit of the script? And it had like the kind of bit in between talking about the pause and the fact that this was such a big deal for her. because this was the first time that she was like really saying it without there being any kind of like life-threatening situation happening around them. And that just, the way that was written was so nicely written, and it talks about Hook kind of absorbing that information and taking it in and realising what a huge step this is for her, and oh, it was just lovely. And so the script, go and read a little bit of the script on Adam Horowitz' Twitter if you haven't already, because it's really lovely. But the scene itself was perfect. Jane and Colin were perfect, as they always are. I can't say enough good things about them this season. This season has been, like, 5A and 5B has been a huge ordeal for these characters, and every, like, week after week, Jane and Colin and the whole cast, but the sort of Captain Swan storyline, they have done an incredible job with having to deal with the Dark One episodes, and then the separation in the Underworld, and all that stuff has just been a real test to them, and I thought that they were absolutely fantastic. I'll just throw that in there actually and just say that the whole cast this season have been incredible. Every season, Lana and Robert and everyone just like knocks it out of the park over and over again. They've had like fun little things for them to be doing, like Josh had to be James and David in this season and got to play that again, and I just feel like there was a lot of fun stuff for them to do in amongst all the kind of angsty stuff, and so it's been incredible, and I've loved this season so much. I really have. I've thought it's been fantastic. I feel like I'm wrapping this video up when I haven't talked about something really important yet, but anyway, I'll wrap this up just now actually and just say season 5, I have loved you. You have had moments that you have torn my heart out, and there have been moments that I haven't necessarily agreed with decisions, but overall I thought it has been fantastic. It has been emotionally turbulent and wonderful, and I cannot wait for season 6. So speaking of season 6, at the end of this episode we saw Regina use the potion that Dr. Jekyll had used to separate himself and Mr. Hyde to separate herself from the evil queen. Now, I am not 100% sure how I feel about this yet, because to me, Regina as a character is one of the most interesting, complex characters on television right now in any of the shows that I'm watching. She has so many layers, she has been through so much and has changed so much over time, and has got that very, very dark side to her that you always kind of worry, is it going to come back and how's she going to handle it? But she's done so much work to become a hero that she's just such a fascinating character, and I sort of feel like the whole point of Once Upon a Time, one of the huge themes running through this show is that everyone has lightness and dark in them, and it's which one you choose to kind of feed that will win out. And that's kind of the point of the show, that exploration of the fact that any of us have the capacity for darkness, and any of us are capable of letting it in if we're in a bad place in our lives. That's such a huge part of the show that I kind of feel like splitting Regina and the Evil Queen into two people, like they're the same person, they're from the same person, but making them two people to sort of fight off each other, just, I don't know yet how I feel about that. But what I'm kind of hoping that they're going to do is that they're going to have it that she realises over time, in whatever way that it is, that she has to battle with the Evil Queen, so she's battling with herself. I want there to be some sort of realisation that you can't split yourself like that. I feel like with Jekyll and Hyde, there's got to be some sort of realisation of that as well, that it's too dangerous to kind of separate. You can't have someone who's just all good and someone who's all evil. That doesn't really work, and I just want there to be this realisation of that, and that she gets joined back up with her in some sort of way, that they figure out how to do that and kind of put her back in there, so that Regina always knows that she's in there. And I know that she's really struggling, and I know that she feels like she can't move on when she's got that as a part of her, but just because she separated it into another body doesn't mean that she didn't still do those things, because it's still the same person. So I don't know, I think there's something very interesting going on here, and I hope that it's done well. I'm sure it will be, because you know me, I generally 90% of the time love what the writers do. So I'm waiting with bated breath to see how they're going to handle that next season, but I think that it could be really interesting, and I hope that that's kind of the route that they're going to take and join them back up again, because I don't know, I feel like it's kind of the point of the show is that everyone has the capacity for both, and I guess this is maybe just a way of really showing you it by having them as two separate people and saying this is part of Regina and this is part of Regina. They're both her, but she has to learn how to control it, sort of thing. So that's what I'm hoping happens. I'm going to do a season 6 like hopes video, I think, maybe at some point, and just talk about that in more depth. But like, Probably Captain Swan proposal at some stage, I'm hoping for in season 6. Also just like lots of much more chilled moments for them. Like season 5 was emotionally turbulent. We want just some like nice, kind of relaxed, domestic sort of look at us, we live together, we're so in love and happy, and everything's a little bit more easy going for us this season. So I'm hoping for that. More of Belle if Emilie's coming back, depending on when she's coming back. More exploration of the Regina Zelina sister bond, because it all happened a little bit too quickly and it needed to happen quickly to kind of further the story towards the end of season 5, but I feel like it's important that we really look into that in season 6. And yeah, I think that's it. I think I'm going to wrap it up there, but I hope that you have enjoyed this review, and I hope that you have enjoyed season 5 as much as I have. Let me know in the comments down below what you thought of the finale, if you enjoyed it as much as I did. I just had a smile from ear to ear for like the whole episode, other than the couple of moments where I got emotional, and I just thought that it was fantastic. So I hope that you enjoyed it too. As I say, leave a comment below and let me know what you thought of it. And join me again, hit the subscribe button so that you are subscribed to my channel for when my reviews of the next season start to go up, which it's all the way in September, but we will hold on till then, and I'll have lots more videos posted about other TV related thoughts and discussions that I want to have in the meantime. Thanks again for watching, guys, and I hope you're having a great week. Speak to you again soon. Bye. For like a huge chunk of 5B, Robin was off in the woods. Like, he got no screen time, he was away with the baby, and yes, of course he had to protect the baby, but we never saw him. He never